Operation Military Kids, Supporting Military Families in Minnesota, a learning circle lesson offered by the University of Minnesota Extension Service. When a parent serving in the National Guard or Army Reserve is called to active duty, they must leave their family, their work, and their community. The call to active duty initiates a cycle that impacts the entire family and all those around them. The family becomes a suddenly military family. For many families, this is a new role. It's important to know the stages families in the military go through in order to provide support and understanding. This presentation will focus on the following objectives: to learn about the military in Minnesota, to understand the cycle of deployment and the impact this has on children and families, to learn about the Operation Military Kids program, and to discuss ways that you and your community can support military families. In Minnesota, we don't have any large military bases. However, we do have thousands of National Guard and Army Reserve personnel who live in our local communities and have been mobilized. Many of these people are assigned to duty in places like Iraq and Bosnia. Others serve here in the United States, helping with disasters and national security duties. When deployment happens, the families of these soldiers experience a huge change, and often the community isn't aware of the impact service has on these suddenly military families. The National Guard in each state is commanded by the governor of that state, but can be called up by the President of the United States to serve the nation during times of national conflict. Most of us know about the Guard when we see neighbors and friends and family members report for a drill weekend each month and an annual 2-week training in the summer. The Army Reserve is not connected to the states, but is under the command of the President of the United States. As a result of the global war on terrorism, our Guard and Reserve soldiers are at the highest level of mobilization and deployment since World War II. In Minnesota, most of our military service people live in our local communities, far from military installations that typically provide support when a family member is deployed. Guard and Reserve families have different needs than career military families. The Guard Reservist is a citizen soldier with their primary occupation in the community and a part-time military job. Families don't consider themselves military families, and because of geography, most families are isolated from other families with a deployed member. The family identity changes with one phone call from civilian to military. In today's world, the United States has a small standing army. In times of war, the Guard and Reserve units are relied upon more and more to support our missions around the world. We currently have troops deployed in 133 locations worldwide. Members may be called up for active duty from several months to 2 years. In most cases, they will be far from their families and communities. A large percentage are parents, and 8% are single parents. They have children across the age range, with about 1/3 of the children in elementary school. What does this mean for the service member and their families? Deployment, mobilization, service. It impacts the entire family. Deployment creates unique issues for families. Everyone is affected. A 2-parent household becomes a single-parent household. And in cases where both parents are deployed, children find themselves living with relatives or other family members. This change in parenting means that children have less parental involvement, more household responsibilities, and needing to care for siblings. Children may spend time home alone, and there may be a change in caregivers if the remaining parent needs to work outside the home to make ends meet. The deployed parent is absent for day-to-day and significant events. Children may have separation issues. Communication with the deployed parent may be limited. And there's worry about the safety of the parent, who may be in a war zone. Sometimes families need to move to new neighborhoods or communities in order to live with extended family. This means that children lose the connection to their friends, school, and community at a time when they need it most. Educators and community members may lack awareness of and sensitivity regarding the deployment and needs of children and families of deployed service members. The news media takes on a different meaning, and children sometimes have difficulty understanding and dealing with the media. Families may feel alone and not know anyone else who is going through the same thing. All these changes can impact a family's well-being. Youth may experience behavioral changes, peer pressure, lower self-esteem, and the family may experience a change in financial resources. Because Minnesota has a small military support system and no large military bases, families don't have a lot of services to help them cope. The deployment cycle. It disrupts a family before, during, and after a parent is called to active duty. Youth and families also develop strengths as a result of the deployment. The situation fosters maturity. Individuals grow emotionally and develop insights. They have opportunities to become more independent. The deployment encourages flexibility and adaptation to change. Children and families build skills for adjusting to separations and losses faced in later life. The deployment often strengthens family bonds. And youth and families typically develop an understanding of the importance of civic duty. The cycle of deployment is divided into 5 stages: pre-deployment, deployment, sustainment, redeployment, and post-deployment. Pre-deployment begins when the family member in the military gets notice that his or her Guard or Reserve unit is being called to active duty. This is an initial alert notice, and there may be a very short time until they leave, or it may be a year in advance for deployment. During this time, the service member will often be required to take additional training, and the family needs to get its personal, legal, and financial affairs in order. Families often experience this as a time of unpredictability, with changes in plans and changes in dates. Stage 2 is deployment. The service member departs for duty. This is a time of goodbyes and learning to adjust to the physical absence of the parent who has left. This is an activation ceremony. The soldiers are the focus of attention, but notice the many family members and friends there to support them. We need to remember how important community support is for everyone impacted by deployment. Stage 3 is sustainment. Now the service member is gone and is performing his or her duties. This can last from 2 to 18 months. It's a time when the family at home begins to develop their own routines and responsibilities. It's a particularly hard time to listen to the news, knowing a loved one is in harm's way. Sometimes young people will not want to talk about the absent family member, and this makes it hard to know they need support. Redeployment, also known as deactivation, is the time right before and right after the service member returns home. The service member may be home for good, for a leave, or to see if their unit will be redeployed. It's a time of anticipation, excitement, and preparing for the homecoming. At the same time, it can be a time of apprehension. Things have changed. Their children have grown, spouses have taken on new responsibilities, and there are many other changes from life before deployment. The family has developed new ways of doing things. The returning service member may want everything to be the same as before, but that is probably not a reality. Families need time to figure out new ways of communication, of parenting and sharing in household responsibilities. The last stage is post-deployment. The homecoming has ended and now the family is reunited. It's typical for families to go through a honeymoon period, but then it's time to adjust to the new normal. The family is no longer an active military family, but they will always be a family that was changed by military service. Every family is different. The adjustments they needed to make to adapt to the absence of the family member now need to be looked at and often changed. Perhaps it's time to move back home, or the family communication patterns need to change with both parents in the house. The independence experienced by the family when they had to go it alone needs to be negotiated. Service in a war zone involves experiences that can affect a soldier's mental health. It's not unusual for veterans to experience depression and a sense of isolation or even post-traumatic stress disorder. For some soldiers and families, dealing with this process may require professional help. Along with that, strong, supportive relationships will help speed the process of adjustment. During the deployment process, Operation Military Kids is working to help families. It helps provide community support networks, recreational, social, and educational programs, support for coping with stress, and education for schools, community agencies, and the public. Operation Military Kids has 4 major activities. The first is Ready, Set, Go trainings. These are trainings designed to educate a variety of audiences, including educators, community groups, clergy, and others on the impact of the deployment cycle on soldiers, families, kids, and the community as a whole. Speak Out for Military Kids is a youth speakers bureau where trained military and non-military children make presentations about the impact of becoming suddenly military. It includes recreational, social, and educational programs for military youth living in civilian communities and providing support to military kids coping with stress. Hero Packs are backpacks containing items such as cameras, writing material, diaries, stuffed toys, and baseball caps that are distributed to children of deployed soldiers to provide comfort as well as recognition for their sacrifices of having a parent serve the country. Finally, Mobile Tech Labs contain computers and other digital technology intended for children of military families to communicate with their deployed parents. Families need support during all 5 phases of the deployment cycle. Here are some ways that you can help. When you know a family has a member who's been called to active duty, it's important to show appreciation for their efforts. One of the things service people worry about is the welfare of their families back home. Be supportive. You can mow their lawn, shovel the snow, or just check in. It'll make a big difference. You can also send letters and care packages to the deployed family member. We can all do our part to care for those here at home. It's recommended that if you offer help, be specific. Rather than saying, "Let me know if," say, "What do you need this week?" or "I'll be over to mow your grass on Saturday." Offer to support the children, too, with transportation, paying for a meal, or a treat to an event. Probably one of the most important things you can do is listen to the concerns of the family and avoid pushing your political views about the war. We all need to support the troops, no matter what our opinions are about the war. If you'd like more information or want to know how to volunteer with Operation Military Kids, you can go to our website, www.operationmilitarykids.org. You can also contact Jim Dietrich, who is the State 4-H Military Liaison, and additional websites are listed on the materials that you receive with this lesson. Operation Military Kids in Minnesota is supported by a number of partners: 4-H, the University of Minnesota Extension Service, the National Guard, the Army Reserve, the American Legion, the Minnesota Department of Education, Boys and Girls Clubs, Child Care Resource and Referral, and the Military Child Education Coalition. This presentation was developed by Rose Allen, Regional Extension Educator in Family Relations, and Sarah Kroymans, Regional Extension Educator, Family Resource Management, with the support of the Minnesota Operation Military Kids team. Thanks for joining us.